It stands as a timeless monument to power, the Roman Colosseum, today. But how did a small riverside settlement grow to conquer the known world? Our story begins not with certainty, but with legend. The legend of twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. Condemned at birth, they were left to die in the Tiber River. But fate intervened. They were found by a she-wolf. The wolf nursed them back to health in her cave. Raised by a shepherd, the brothers grew strong and charismatic. In 753 BC, they chose this land to found their own city. But a tragic dispute over which hill to build on erupted between them. In a fit of rage, Romulus killed his brother Remus. He named the new city after himself, Rome. Romulus became its first of 7 kings. This monarchy would rule for over 200 years, until a tyrant king inspired a revolution. The tyranny of the last king was over. In 509 BC, a new era was born, the Roman Republic. Power was given not to a king, but to the Senate, and to the people of Rome, SPQR. But this new republic would soon face its greatest rival, Carthage, a mighty power from across the sea. Their legendary general, Hannibal, launched a daring assault. He did the impossible, marching an army and its war elephants over the Alps and into Italy's heartland. At the Battle of Cannae, he handed Rome its most devastating defeat. Rome was on its knees, but it did not break. A new general, Scipio, took the fight to Africa. At the Battle of Zama, Scipio finally defeated Hannibal. Carthage was shattered. Rome was now the master of the Mediterranean. The Republic's territory exploded. Legions marched across new lands, from Spain to Greece. But this rapid expansion came at a cost. Vast wealth flowed to the elite, while farms, worked by slaves, replaced the small citizen farmers who were the army's backbone. The Gracchi brothers tried to reform the system, demanding land for the poor. The Senate saw them as a threat. Both brothers were assassinated. The Republic's laws were broken by its own leaders. This internal rot soon gave way to open rebellion. The gladiator Spartacus led the most famous slave revolt in history. For 2 years, his army of the oppressed defeated legion after legion. Rome turned to its richest man, Marcus Crassus, to stop him. Rebellion was ultimately crushed with merciless brutality. The Republic had survived, but it was deeply wounded. The old system was failing. The state relied on powerful generals, and one man was rising faster than any other: Julius Caesar. The Republic was cracking. Powerful generals, not laws, now held the real authority. 3 men formed a secret alliance to rule. The first triumvirate: Crassus, the richest; Pompey, the great general and the most ambitious; Julius Caesar. Caesar, a brilliant strategist, went to conquer the wild lands of Gaul. For 9 years, his legions were victorious, winning him legendary fame. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. He sent back tales of glory, winning the adoration of the Roman people. Back in Rome, his partner Pompey grew jealous and afraid of Caesar's power. The Senate, loyal to Pompey, declared Caesar an enemy of the state. They ordered him to give up his army and return home. Caesar stood at the edge of a small river, the Rubicon. To cross it with his army meant treason. It meant civil war. In 49 BC, he made his choice. Alea iacta est. The die is cast. He crossed the Rubicon, plunging the Republic into a war against itself. The civil war was swift. Caesar's military genius was unmatched. He defeated Pompey and returned to Rome as the undisputed master. The Senate, cowed, named him dictator for life. The Republic was dead in all but name. He was a king without a crown, but many senators feared this new tyranny. A conspiracy was formed, led by his own friend Brutus. They planned to save the Republic. On the Ides of March 44 BC, they surrounded him in the Senate. Caesar was stabbed 23 times, falling at the foot of Pompey's statue. The liberators claimed victory, but they had only unleashed chaos. Caesar's death brought no peace. Instead, it led to a brutal decade of civil war. 2 new figures rose to power: Mark Antony, Caesar's general, and Octavian, his adopted son. They hunted down Caesar's assassins before turning their deadly rivalry against each other. The ultimate clash came at Actium. Octavian won, cementing his control over Rome. In 27 BC, Octavian declared himself the first Roman emperor, Augustus. He carefully kept the illusion of the Republic, but centralized all power in his hands. This transition from Republic to Empire brought something Rome desperately needed: stability. He ushered in 2 centuries of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. Under the Pax Romana, the empire experienced a massive boom in engineering. Vast networks of paved roads connected every corner of the Roman world. Great public works, temples, baths, and forums were constructed across Europe and Africa. The city of Rome itself grew into a monumental, majestic metropolis. The military served to protect the borders, not to fight internal wars. Trade flourished, bringing exotic goods and ideas into the Roman heartland. The empire reached its territorial peak under Emperor Trajan. The vast majority of Roman citizens enjoyed law, order, and relative comfort, but the emperors held absolute power, leading to occasional madness and cruelty. Emperor Caligula, known for his eccentric behavior, brought disgrace and terror. Yet, for every tyrant, there was an emperor of wisdom, like the philosopher Marcus Aurelius. This period also saw the rise of a small, persecuted religious sect, Christianity. The empire, built on pagan traditions, often brutally suppressed the new faith. The arena was the center of Roman entertainment, embodying its genius and brutality. The public spectacles were designed to distract the masses from political life. This stability, however, came at the cost of liberty and political agency. The prosperity and peace of the Pax Romana could not last forever. By the end of the 2nd century, the great age of empire was drawing to a close. By the 3rd century, the Pax Romana had collapsed. The empire faced a perfect storm of disaster. A massive plague swept through the population, devastating armies and cities alike. Economic collapse saw rapid inflation. The silver in the coinage was stripped away. External threats mounted. Germanic tribes pressed hard against the weakened borders. Worst of all was the constant political chaos. The crisis of the 3rd century. Emperors rose and fell in quick succession, often ruling for mere months before being assassinated. The Senate was powerless. Rome itself seemed lost. Stability finally returned with Emperor Diocletian, a reformer from the military ranks. He believed the empire was too vast for one man to rule alone. Diocletian created the Tetrarchy, ruled by 4 emperors dividing the territory. The Tetrarchy stabilized the borders and economy, but it fractured the empire's unity. This system eventually collapsed into a new round of civil war. The eventual victor was Constantine, who claimed divine guidance before his final battle. Constantine established Christianity as a legal religion, ending the age of persecution. His most dramatic decision was moving the capital far east to Byzantium. He renamed the city Constantinople, the New Rome. The empire was now formally divided between west and east. The eastern half was rich, defensible, and stable. The western half, centered on the ancient city of Rome, was poor and exposed. The fate of the 2 empires was now irrevocably different. While the east thrived, the western empire struggled to survive. The legions, once Rome's greatest strength, were now composed largely of hired barbarian mercenaries. The borders were overwhelmed by tribes like the Huns, Goths, and Vandals. The Danube frontier, once secure, became a sieve for desperate invaders. The Gothic king Alaric led a major invasion, marching directly on Italy. In 410 AD, Alaric's forces famously sacked the city of Rome. The shock of the eternal city falling echoed across the known world. The Vandals followed, launching another devastating attack decades later. Wealth was looted, buildings were stripped bare, and art was destroyed. Population plummeted. The great aqueducts and baths fell into disrepair. Imperial power shrunk to a tiny pocket in Italy. The last shreds of authority were held by puppet emperors and powerful generals. By the middle of the 5th century, the Western Empire was a fiction. The final blow came in 476 AD. The last child emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a barbarian general. The barbarian leader, Odoacer, chose not to take the title of emperor. The Western imperial regalia, the symbols of Rome, were sent to Constantinople. The Western Roman Empire was officially no more. The Dark Ages had begun in Europe, but Rome did not truly vanish. The eastern half, the Byzantine Empire, survived. For another 1,000 years, Constantinople preserved Roman law, language, and culture. The greatest legacy, however, is woven into the fabric of the modern world. Roman law, law, concepts like civil rights and legal procedure, forms the basis of Western law. Latin, the language of the legions, evolved into the Romance languages we speak today. Its architecture, the arches, domes, and concrete, redefines modern construction. Its political structures influence every republic and democratic system. Calendar we use, names of the months, and the civil day all derive from Rome. The Roman Catholic Church, centered in Rome, carried on its administrative legacy. The Roman Empire fell, but its impact is immortal. The shadow of Rome stretches across 2,000 years of history, and its story, the Epoch of Rome, is still being told.